This is consistently one of the most desired videos, always in the comment sections. Hustle, what is your current portfolio? And especially heading into Q4 2025, where we do project one of the most bullish times of the 4-year cycle. So in this video, I'm going to go over A to Z, my portfolio heading into Q4 for maximum upside. And before we jump into it, I am going to tell you my risk tolerance, your risk tolerance, my situation, my portfolio size is going to be different, and so is yours. So this is not a one size fits all, but this fits my risk profile for maximum upside, but also very safe tokens at the top of my portfolio to make sure that I have minimum downside, but still maximum upside. So without further ado, let's dive into my Q4 2025 portfolio. And before we dive into the portfolio and exactly my logic behind each of these holdings, be sure to drop down below and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Every single day here on In the Game, we have you covered top to bottom, everything that you need to win throughout this bull market. We have you covered right here on In the Game. And of course, a big shout out to our sponsors down below in the description. We have some amazing partners as far as Nexus Labs, Blowfin, 𝗔𝗏𝗍, 𝗏𝗏𝗏, and I want to give a shout out to Nexus Labs here today, as it's obviously the product we use to track the markets, track prices every single day. But you as a consumer, as a viewer of the channel, can also get involved. We have a perps dex on the platform, but most importantly, not only can you track the markets, but you can get insight from myself directly for one of the memberships here on Nexus Labs. So you can check it out down below in the description. You can just get alpha directly from me as soon as it comes across, as soon as I place trades, etc. Plus, you get an all-in-one tool to master the markets. So check out Nexus Labs down below in the description. Let's go ahead and dive into the markets. Right now, the markets took a little bit of a dip today. I don't really think it's anything to concern over. The market was super over leveraged, and that's one thing we're seeing very common in this market currently, is that a lot of people are trading on leverage that probably shouldn't be, and are just over leveraging themselves. While, you know, I highly encourage to farm volume on Aster and all these different perps dexes. Just don't go too risk on, especially if you're not an expert trader, okay? And I think that's an issue with this cycle so far, is a lot of people are leveraged, whereas, you know, having spot positions for 95% of people, 99% of people, that's going to be the route to winning over just trading in and out, trying to, you know, leverage long, leverage short on every single move. So that's what I'm seeing in the market right now. We are seeing a little bit of a dip, but I don't really think it's anything to concern as far as changing the Q4 outlook. I'm still very bullish, and that's why we're going into my portfolio heading into these last 3 months of 2025. So I've thrown all the numbers for my crypto portfolio for Q4 here on this spreadsheet, and we're going to go over it step by step, layer by layer, and just break down the logic behind each position. And like I said, you might have the urge to take a look at a certain position that I'm in and wonder why, or you want to go buy it. I don't advise that whatsoever. I would just make sure, do your own research. This is not financial advice. And like I said at the beginning of this video, my risk tolerance versus someone else's is going to be completely different. Having spent 8 years in the industry, 5.5 years doing this full time now, I am very comfortable taking risks. So just assess your own situation and do not go race to try to copy this portfolio verbatim. I don't think that that's the play, but you can do your own research. If you find a new project here that you really enjoy, go check it out and you can assess that on your own. But let's go ahead and jump into it. So I've listed this in a few sectors here. We have majors, we have AI, we have DeFi, we have memes, and we have gaming. Now, I'm going to go over why I am allocated into these specific sectors and why each project makes sense for my personal portfolio. So let's just jump into it. And I want to show you guys this list here has really trimmed down. Like if we go back to some of these early portfolio videos, you can see how many positions we were in at certain points in the market, right? The market was maybe a little frothier, a little hotter at this time, a lot of new coins coming out. So I held a ton of stuff back on these, few portfolios that we had put in over the course of the last 18 months, really. We don't do portfolio updates enough here on the channel, so I'm going to try to make sure that we do. That way you understand where my, allocations are and exactly, which projects I do have heavier allocations or smaller conviction in, etc. So let's just jump into it. As you can see here, the list has really trimmed down, and I think this is the only way to win this cycle now. I don't think it's the invest in 50 coins, let everything run and just see what happens. That is not the best strategy to deploy during this point in the market. I think you have to hold conviction coins and then take some risks down the ladder in your portfolio, which is exactly what I have done here. So let's just, go through the basics here. Number one, we see Bitcoin. I am holding 35% of my portfolio in Bitcoin. I'm very comfortable doing that, okay? I don't think that there's a world where, unless you are literally just playing with $100, I think you need to buy Bitcoin. Like, I think the phenomenon on crypto Twitter and YouTube, really YouTube specifically, is a lot of people focus on altcoins. And while we focus on altcoins here, there will never be a time period where I would say if you have any amount of thousands of dollars in crypto, you need to try to have some Bitcoin. And the amount of people on crypto Twitter, for example, that don't hold any Bitcoin in their portfolio is wild to me, especially in the fact that we have been in a bull market for a long time. If you look at that Bitcoin chart, we have been in a bull market, regardless of how biased we are that our bags haven't pumped in the alt space. Altcoins aren't everything, and most people, institutional interest is flowing into Bitcoin. So it has been a Bitcoin bull run, and regardless of what you want to say, that is just the truth. I am allocated 35% of my total capital in the cryptocurrency industry is in Bitcoin. Moving on down the ladder with other majors. Look, majors are going to consist of most of this portfolio, but this is how you have that downside protection that I mentioned at the very beginning of this video. So obviously, number two here, we have Ethereum. I do hold 8% of my portfolio in Ethereum. I'm an NFT founder. We have Ethereum. Obviously, I'm an NFT trader occasionally. I hold Ethereum for those purposes. And just in general, I keep a lot of money on the ETH chain across a ton of my wallets. So at that point in time, I have Ethereum spread out across a lot of different places, cold storage, etc. And Ethereum, I think, has to be a part of your portfolio. If you're long-term bullish on crypto, Ethereum's not going anywhere. And as much as you might think, oh, Ethereum might not be a great investment for me personally, it is one of the very few coins, maybe BNB, Ethereum, Bitcoin, that will be here every single cycle. Regardless, does not matter. These products have proven over time they're not going anywhere. So to me, Ethereum is just one of those longer term plays that you don't really have to worry about. So I am definitely bullish on ETH, and I hold about 8% of my portfolio on chain in Ethereum. From here, we have three plays that I keep 3% of my capital in, with Sol, 𝗠𝗠y, and AVAX. So 9% of my total capital between these three tokens. Now, I think the logic on these is pretty simple. Solana is going to heat up again this cycle. Right now, we are seeing BNB season play out, and I won't lie, I'm way too under allocated on BNB. As far as just the specific BNB token. I won't lie, that's something that I've never really given a ton of investment interest into, but luckily a piece of this portfolio in a recent play that we gave here that just absolutely has been crushing will make up for that. So we'll get to that here in just a second. But Solana, I think the trenches will heat back up. I think money will flow back into Solana. We see big plays out there, new stable coins like Ethena coming out on Solana with Solstice Finance. So to me, Solana's a no-brainer. 3% into Sol. Also 3% into 𝗠𝗠y. I think that 𝗠𝗠y is about to have a major run. All-time highs at $5. This thing could easily break out. It has some of the best cap table VCs and supporters across the entire space. To me, 𝗠𝗠y is an absolute no-brainer. It might be one of the most underpriced major altcoins in the entire market. And then last but not least, you guys know how bullish I am on Avalanche. Avalanche, look, if you are, living under a rock, they're working with FIFA, Copa America, New York Red Bull. They're working with LSU, the Cleveland Cavaliers, Detroit Pistons, Tottenham Hotspur, Scotland and Northern Ireland football teams. They work with BlackRock. They work with JP Chase. They work with 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗀𝗧𝗏𝗏's on-chain hedge fund. The amount of real-world adoption that has happened on AVAX this cycle is absolutely ridiculous. And for this thing to still be under $30, I think is criminal. So those are three majors that I have equal allocation to across those. So AVAX, SUI, and Solana. Moving on down the ladder, I do have 1% in 𝗂𝗲𝗄. 𝗂𝗲𝗄 is a cult community, usually runs near the end of a Bitcoin bull run. So to me, I like 𝗂𝗲𝗄, but I'm only putting 1% into this because the tokenomics are very much on the same lines as Bitcoin. However, it is kind of a proxy play to it. So I do have 1% of my portfolio in 𝗂𝗲𝗄. And then the two big ones here. I hold more of these two now in my portfolio than I do any Solana, SUI, and AVAX. And that's Hype and Aster. Now, before the comment section goes, Hustle, you hold 5% of your portfolio in Aster. Didn't it just come out? This. Yes, but I put 1% of it in. It 10x'd. We've taken plenty of profits. Now that 5% bag is literally a free ride. And that's what we talk about here on this channel is taking profits, right? You're never going to go broke taking profits. And whenever this thing 10x'd from 20 cents and we got in early, we gave it here on the channel at 30 cents on the same day. Look, you got to take some profits out, but this did balloon to one of my biggest positions in my entire crypto portfolio. And I'm very convinced that I'm going to keep it that way because if you look at this, what Binance has done, CZ has decided to have numerous layers. It used to be only a Binance spot listing would move the needle. Like a project got listed on Binance, that was the creme de la creme. Like from there, you're set. You basically have the best liquidity in the world, the best exchange, etc. Binance was the top of the ladder as far as once you're listed there, you're probably set as a project. But now they have so many legs. Binance Alpha, Binance Perps, Binance Spot, Aster Perps, Aster Spot. So they have so much leverage now whenever they list on these different platforms. Like they've created a monster here with Aster. And by the way, there are more airdrops to come on Aster. So if you are not on our team already, we have an amazing team put together here and the official crypto banter team. The link is down below in the description if you want to join in on one of the best Aster trading teams in the entire space. We have the maximum multiplier, everything you need to maximize that side of the airdrop. You can check out Aster down below in the description, but this is a no-brainer to me. I mean, they're bringing Binance on chain. That's exactly what Aster is. And like what Frank says here, it's just adding more leverage to what they're doing. But on top of that, there's no reason that you have to choose. And we've seen so much tribalism over this. You can hold Hype and Aster. In fact, I'm very cozy having these two protocols taking up 10% of my portfolio. Like Hyperliquid is the killer app of this cycle, and this is Binance's competitor. They're trying to make this the Binance on chain. So to me, Hype and Aster, 10% of my portfolio, 5% each. I'm very comfortable in that at this point in time. And then last but not least, I do hold 1% of 𝗂𝗲𝗄. I do consider 𝗂𝗲𝗄 a major. The tech itself, I think, will start rivaling a lot of these higher market cap protocols over time. And I do like 𝗂𝗲𝗄 for 1% of my portfolio. Now let's start getting into where a little more degen inflows into this portfolio, but I will unhide this as I think a lot of people should deplore this strategy. I hold 64% of my total portfolio in majors. So almost 2/3 of my whole portfolio, I feel very comfortable with minimum downside because I know these protocols are built to last and they are very solid projects. So to me, 64% of my portfolio in majors, and this first AI coin you could even consider a major, which is 𝗏𝗏. I hold 5% of my portfolio in 𝗏𝗏. I want AI allocation, but over the course of the crypto industry, We have seen way too many projects come and go too quickly in the AI space. Basically like gaming in its early stages. When gaming blew up, every project wanted to say, oh, we're building a game, or we're a gaming project, or we're an NFT collection, but we have a game coming up because we're totally good at that, right? Which they weren't, obviously. We saw 99% of those projects go away and go to zero. But the same thing with AI. Like over the course of time, really only a few projects have materialized to anything. And 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 to me is the king of the AI space, sitting at $300. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing multiply to $1,000 over the course of this cycle. So to me, very comfortable putting 5%. I want AI allocation, okay? But I don't want to take the stabs at the lower market cap stuff that's going to be here today and gone tomorrow. And then I have 4 allocations at 1%. I'm going to highlight one of them as, 𝗲𝗄𝗅. So 𝗲𝗄𝗅, I was very lucky to have early investment in this before they went live. But for a long time, I was very disappointed in the suppression of price. This thing sat at 2 cents for, how long? Let's just go look at the chart because 𝗲𝗄𝗅, this sat at 2 cents. Let's go to the all chart. Literally at this level for such a long time. And whenever it launched, it was very impressive. It had great returns, but during this time period, really just ranging between 2 and 3 cents for 6+ months, 8 months. And then we saw this explosion up here to 5 cents. So I have started holding my vestings on this. So this is a part of my portfolio at this point. 1% of my total portfolio I keep in 𝗲𝗄𝗅 tokens. But the reason being is out of all the AI projects, first and foremost, their revenue is over $100 million. They're one of the few businesses in crypto that doesn't get talked about enough in the revenue niche. But on top of that, they have the digital asset treasury, which is coming out right now underneath a NASDAQ listed POAI. So this is basically a SPAC. So they have major money on the NASDAQ coming in and building a treasury with 𝗲𝗄𝗅. They have over 9 figures in revenue. To me, I should probably be holding more of this, but at the end of the day, 1% of my total portfolio is in 𝗲𝗄𝗅. The next 3 are more long shots. These are the ones that if they were to multiply 5-10x, you're going to make a ton of money, but the 1% in each of these, I'm not going to get burned too hard if one of them does horribly or whatever the case is. So this is my risk tolerance, right? That's why I said there's no one size fits all portfolio, but my 3 low market cap AI coins that I hold are 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏, 𝗪l_AI, and GPU. These are the 3 to me that have been around. They've proven they actually have tech. 𝗪l has crazy in-game technology for gaming. You have 𝗕𝗏𝗏, which is one of the #1 subnets underneath 𝗕. And then on top of that, we have GPU, which, they've been literally doing they are exactly what they say they are. They use GPU computing power. You outsource it, you earn GPU, you provide it for networks. It's very straightforward. So those 3 plays, low market cap, all of those are under $50 million market cap currently. So I do like those quite a bit. Moving into the DeFi lens. Now, I'm not someone who's going to go tell you to hold PancakeSwap, Uniswap, Aerodrome, etc. I'm not big into the DeFi token landscape like that. However, there is a play out there that I think has shown upside, got crushed after its initial portion, but I think will have a massive recovery. That token, and if you've been following the channel, I think you guys know what this is Blackhole. Blackhole sitting at a $30 million market cap, and they're the largest decentralized exchange on Avalanche. They do billions of dollars in volume, over $200 million in TVL. This makes little to no sense. It went up to $1.50. It's down 80% from that price point. However, I still have yields every day. I locked a portion of my tokens as well, so I get that yield appreciation every week. And right now, the effective rebate rate for burning black is 112%. Black Locker is going to clean up. For me, I just think it's beaten down too hard based off the metrics. So my one pure DeFi play in my portfolio is Blackhole. Now, I don't knock you And I'll do the same thing. I'll short-term trade stuff like a pancake swap during BNB narrative, or whatever the case is. The local DEX during an ecosystem run, we talked about this on yesterday's video, I think is a great long position during the appropriate time in the market. BNB's going crazy, the Binance ecosystem, and now we see pancake swap back above $4 for the first time in quite some time. So to me, there could be other DeFi plays you can short-term swing trade, but for me, Black is the one pillar of my DeFi portfolio. But I just have 1% in at this point. I sell some of my emissions, I keep some of my emissions, I build a position, I burn some of it, and just try to get that APR up on my locked emissions from 𝗣𝗚 is what they call it. So that's what I'm doing with my black hole tokens. That's a play that's not going to be built for everyone, but I do have a high risk tolerance, and it's just 1% of my portfolio. Meme coins. Memes were hot, dropped off. Memes are coming back right now. We see BNB season going absolutely crazy. And I think traditional memes that lead on certain chains and narratives will be hot at some point again. So for me, I still hold 1% of my portfolio in 𝗏, which is the #1 meme coin on Base. When Base does their airdrop, I could totally see a lot of money and attention flowing into meme coins, and 𝗏 is front and center there. It's literally on the homepage of the Coinbase wallet app. No brainer, in my opinion. That's like taking a bet on Aster in the BNB ecosystem. You're taking a bet on 𝗏 as a meme coin, so it's a little different, of course, but in the Coinbase ecosystem. MOG, I still hold a position in MOG. I have 1% of my total portfolio in the MOG token. I just think the culture around that is phenomenal, and just to be honest, it's one of the memes that's very relatable across crypto. And then last but certainly not least is Pengu. Pengu is my highest allocated meme coin in my entire portfolio. I hold 3% of my portfolio in Pengu. The reason being is Pengu is everywhere. Pengu is crypto culture. I'm trying to find it here on my watch list. I know it's around here somewhere. Pengu, we'll find it. There we are. Sitting at $1.9 billion market cap. This is crypto's mascot. Look, if anything's going to go crazy this cycle on chain, you're going to probably see NFTs heat up at some point. Pudgies are going to lead the charge. You're probably going to see Pengu rocket. If Abstract announces an airdrop, I expect Pengu's going to go up at that point in time as well. I think Pengu is one of the best just spot and chill trades in the entire space. And like I said, this is the mascot of this bull run. I want a piece of that. So I have 3% of my total portfolio in Pengu. Now, let's get in and let me unhide these on the side here. So to break it down, I have 9% of my total port in AI currently. I also have 5% of my total portfolio in meme coins. So with 64% of my port in majors, I feel so comfortable taking these risks, which is exactly how you need to set up for your portfolio. Okay, that's the best way to make sure you mitigate your risk. Find those projects, whether it's BNB, XRP, Arbitrum, Near Protocol, Dogecoin, for Christ's sakes. It doesn't really matter, okay? Find the projects that you just have massive conviction in, that have proven over the course of time to be here, building, have staying power, and really just stand the test of time. Find those positions and run with them inside your personal portfolio. That's exactly what I've done here with all of these coins. And with 64% of my portfolio sitting there, I feel so good to be able to take swings on the other 20 some odd percent that I'm allocated in at this point in time. Because if you notice also, before we get into what is going to probably be the most polarizing part of this portfolio, the fact that I still have money in the gaming coins. Yes, crazy. It is absolutely insane. But we have really trimmed down our conviction here, and we'll talk about that in just a second. I hold 12% of my port currently, as it stands, in stablecoins. This allows me to have freedom, jump into new opportunities like an Aster, jump into meme coin narratives like BNB, catch a trade like Trump on Solana, whatever the case is. I think having stablecoins is a must. If you're $100 in crypto, let's just say, then maybe keeping $12 in stablecoins, 12% of 100 is not the play. So But as a bigger portfolio size, you're going to want to keep some sidelined money for new opportunities. There's no worse thing than having to wonder which position you want to sell to get into a new one. So to me, I always hold stable coins, and I have 12% of my portfolio in stables. So I'm 88% allocated, which for me is a little high. Like if Aster hit $3, $4, I'd take more off that position. And if some of these larger allocations continued to pump, I will absolutely be taking profits more into stables. I want to start moving towards that 20% mark, hopefully by the end of this month, if we do get October the way that we are thinking we will. So we'll see how that plays out. But gaming, look, gaming has been undoubtedly the most disappointing niche in crypto. I don't think there's even a debate at this point in time. Sure, maybe the meme coin hit rate is even lower because just 99.999 of anything that launches in the meme coin space is gonna rug and go to zero. However, the amount of valiant efforts that have come out in the gaming space and just completely flop are ridiculous. So I think bar none, the most disappointing niche in crypto has been gaming. And unfortunately, you know, gaming was something that I had so much conviction in, and I still see the big picture, which is why I still invest in a few of the top protocols here. We're going to talk about that here right now. So number one, Ronin. Look, I still believe in Ronin tenfold. They are the number one gaming protocol that has been around multiple cycles. They built the number one game in crypto, which is Axie Infinity. They have proven to be one of the best plays in the industry. But on top of that, they are doing buybacks on their token. They are one of the few games out there with a massive treasury they can start deploying into their own token. Hyperliquid does buybacks. Aster is going to be doing buybacks. There's a couple other coins I'm going to talk about that are doing buybacks. But projects that are willing to take revenue and invest it back in the chart, that is beyond bullish. So to me, Ronin is still a top position in my gaming portfolio, and I hold 2% of my gaming portfolio in Ronin. Now, let's go uncover these 1% positions here. We have Superverse. I just think that Elio and Becker are going to just continuously throw this out there. I believe in Superverse as an ecosystem play. You're getting exposure to a ton of different games with the Super token. And like I said, I just think it'll pump, especially as retail comes back through and you see people just seeing, you know, the big influencers like Elio, like Becker, that are very bullish on Super. So I have 1% of Super. I have 1% in Beam. Beam, every time the market moves, and especially gaming, it has proven to be one of the best coins. I still like Beam as an ecosystem as well. And just their treasury. They have like $100 million in their treasury. They could definitely go do buybacks. So I wouldn't really doubt seeing that from them. So I have 1% in Beam. I have 1% in Wilder World. Wilder World to me is one of the most culturally aware games out there that also has an amazing product. Like, they're rolling out games, you know, step by step. They have their open world coming. They have their first person shooter. They have the racing game. They've done a lot of different things experimenting, and their token performance has actually been one of the stronger tokens in all of the gaming niche. And I still do hold 1% in Prime. The problem here for Prime has been no updates. Like, where's Parallel Colony, the AI game? Like, what's the next progression? And I don't want to, we 10x on this coin. It went from $2.70 to $27. I would pray that if you got in on that, you took profits. However, I still have 1% of my position in Prime, as if it goes back up, that'll be a big win again. But at the same time, I just need to see faster development, as far as the fact that we've been waiting on Parallel Colony for quite some time, which is their AI game, which was my whole thesis on why this coin could have gone higher, and it hasn't really happened. So definitely waiting on that at this point in time. And then let's get into some smaller market caps. We have �y'Borg. I hold 2% of my gaming port in �y'Borg, and I'm very cozy doing so. Backed by Swissborg. They have their Season 11 reward program going out right now, which is 1 million �y'Borg rewards. They have big initiatives. They've been teasing �y'Borg AI. They've also teased that over 150% of revenue will be going into token buybacks. So a massive backing. They have incredible tech. They work with some of the best esports organizations in all of crypto. Right now, you're on a dip, 7% on the daily. But if we look at this monthly chart, tons of strength here. I definitely expect 𝗪𝗡𝗄 to break all-time highs at that 40-cent level. And I'm very comfortable holding as much of this in a dollar figure amount than I am Ronin. Because, look, Ronin's a higher market cap, 𝗪𝗡𝗅's a lower market cap, but their teams ship relentlessly. So very bullish on 𝗪𝗡𝗅. I hold 2% of my portfolio in XBG. And then the last three are just simply low market cap moonshots. Between WAGMI Games, who's also about to start deploying token buybacks, we have 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, which just every time the market pumps, 𝗏 goes absolutely insane, and then Limbo at 1%. So at this point in time, I actually hold 11% of my portfolio here in gaming, which sounds absolutely batshit crazy at this point in time. But like I said, I'm so comfortable with my majors, my AI, Pengu, Ronin, 𝗪𝗡𝗅, and then my stablecoin allocation to take care of. And look, if gaming has a pump, we'll make out like bandits, even with just this 11% allocated into the gaming niche. So that's what I'm looking at right now as far as my Q4 crypto portfolio heading into potentially the most parabolic time of the bull run. But like I mentioned, guys, this is not a one size fits all. And I don't really care if you don't like a position, that's fine. If you heard me talk about a coin 3 years ago and it's not in my portfolio, that's obvious. They fell off. I don't have conviction in it anymore, whatever the case is. Like at this point in time, this is where my bags are. I've consolidated a great amount of strength plus upside potential for teams that are still here and building. So this is what I'm looking at for Q4. And then those stable coins I'm actively deploying into new trades and opportunities throughout this cycle. So guys, like the video down below if you enjoyed the content today. And as always, hit the subscribe button. We're trying to push up towards 125, 150K throughout this bull run. Help us out down below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. As always, play well, my friends, trade responsibly, and of course, stay bullish, my friends.